I am Everly, 29, and literally last weekend, my rep as the family glue? Yeah, it totally backfired. The perfect wedding day I'd worked my butt off to plan? It blew up into a full-on family meltdown at the venue I'd dreamed of since I was a kid. My sister Vanessa straight up demanded I forgive her latest stunt, and when I clapped back, the room went dead silent. "You just ruined your own wedding," she yelled, with every guest staring like I'd smashed the cake myself. But here's the tea. Her shade didn't break me, it lit a spark. I'm not just pushing back, I'm about to flip the script and change everything. A quick note, this story is copyrighted by the YouTube channel Guest Stories. Reposting, revoicing, or editing this content without permission constitutes copyright infringement. Thank you for respecting original creative work. Now back to the story. The morning of my wedding, I stood in the bridal suite, my white dress pooling around me like a soft cloud, the mirror reflecting a woman who'd spent months planning every detail. Roses in soft pinks, fairy lights twinkling like stars, a playlist that hit every nostalgic chord. I'd always been the one to hold our family together, the one who remembered birthdays, smoothed over fights, and made sure Dad ate something other than takeout. But today my hands trembled as I adjusted my veil, not from nerves about marrying Tom, my rock, but because of a gnawing dread. My father wasn't here. He'd chosen Vanessa's fake party over walking me down the aisle. I'd woken up to a text from him at 6 a.m. "Everly, I'm so sorry, but Vanessa's throwing a surprise party for me tonight. I can't miss it, you'll be fine." My stomach dropped, the words blurring through tears I refused to let fall. Fine? This was my wedding. The one day I'd begged him to prioritize. Vanessa, my younger sister by 3 years, had a knack for stealing the spotlight, and this time, she'd orchestrated a party that didn't even exist, just a lie to pull Dad away. I paced the suite, my heels clicking on the hardwood, my breath catching as I tried to process the betrayal. The man who'd raised me, who'd taught me to ride a bike, was ditching me for her manipulation. I sank onto a velvet chair, clutching my phone, rereading his message. My thumb hovered over the call button, but pride stopped me. I wouldn't beg. Instead, I thought of Tom's Uncle Jack, the man who'd become my confidant over the past year, always ready with a warm laugh and a story about his own wild youth. He'd be at the venue by now, probably joking with the caterers. Could I ask him to step in? The idea felt like a lifeline, but it also stung, admitting my own father had abandoned me. A knock interrupted my spiral. It was my maid of honor, Lila, her eyes wide with concern. "Ev, you okay? You look like you're about to punch a wall." I forced a smile, my lips tight, and handed her my phone to read Dad's text. Her jaw dropped, her fingers tightening around the device. "Vanessa did what?" she whispered, her voice sharp. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. Leela hugged me, her arms grounding me as I fought the urge to scream. "You don't need him," she said fiercely. "You've got us." She was right, but the hurt still burned. I stood, smoothing my dress, my reflection now showing a flicker of resolve. Vanessa wanted to ruin my day, to make me feel small, but I wouldn't let her. I grabbed my bouquet, the stems cool against my palms, and headed toward the door. Jack would be there. He'd walk me down the aisle, and I'd hold my head high. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Vanessa's lie would unravel, and when it did, I'd be ready to face her. And Dad with the truth. The venue buzzed as I stepped into the hallway, guests' laughter echoing from the garden outside. My heart pounded not with joy but with a fire I hadn't felt before. Vanessa thought she'd won, but she'd just ignited something in me. I wasn't the quiet sister anymore, the one who fixed everyone else's messes. Today I'd start rewriting my story, starting with the man waiting to stand by my side. Not my father, but someone who chose me. As I walked down the hallway toward the garden where the ceremony would begin, my mind drifted back to the years of slights that had led to this moment. The invisible threads of favoritism that had woven Vanessa into the center of our family while pushing me to the edges. It wasn't just today's betrayal. It was a pattern, etched into every family gathering, every milestone I'd fought for alone. I remembered my high school graduation, the cap and gown moment I'd earned with straight A's and late nights studying while working part-time at a coffee shop to save for college. Dad had promised to be there, front row, but Vanessa had a dance recital the same day, a minor one really, just a school event, and he'd chosen that instead. It's her big debut, he'd said over the phone, his voice casual, like my achievement was an afterthought. I paused in the hallway, leaning against the cool wall, my bouquet dangling from my hand as the memory flooded in. That day I'd stood on the stage, scanning the crowd for his face, my heart sinking when I realized he wasn't there. Mom had passed away when I was 10, leaving Dad to raise us, but he'd always leaned on Vanessa's charm, her way of batting her eyes and getting what she wanted. After the ceremony, I drove home alone, my diploma clutched in my lap, tears stinging my eyes. When I walked in, the house was alive with celebration for Vanessa. Balloons floated in the living room, cake on the table, Dad hugging her tightly. "You were amazing, sweetie," he beamed, not even noticing me at first. When he did, it was a quick pat on the back. "Good job, Everly. Proud of you." No party, no cake, just those words tossed like scraps. My fingers tightened around the bouquet stems now, the thorns pricking slightly through the ribbon, grounding me in the present. But the flashbacks kept coming, relentless. College acceptance letters. I'd gotten into my top choice on a full scholarship, majoring in marketing because I loved the creativity, the strategy of building something from nothing. I burst into the kitchen that day, waving the letter, my voice excited. "Dad, look, full ride." He glanced up from his newspaper, nodded. "That's great, Eve." But then Vanessa waltzed in, announcing she'd made the cheerleading squad, and suddenly it was all about her. Dinner out to celebrate, Dad raving about her flips and cheers. I sat there forcing a smile, my letter forgotten on the counter. She'd smirk at me across the table, her eyes saying, "See, I'm the star." I pushed off the wall, continuing down the hall, my steps slower as another memory hit. My first big promotion at work, at 25, becoming a junior executive after pitching a campaign that saved the company thousands. I'd invited Dad and Vanessa to dinner to share the news, my treat at a nice Italian place. I dressed up, nervous but proud, rehearsing how I'd tell them. But Vanessa arrived late, complaining about traffic, then dominated the conversation with her latest drama, a boyfriend who'd ghosted her. Dad comforted her, hand on her shoulder, while I waited for a break to speak. When I finally did, "Hey, I got promoted today," Dad said. "Oh yeah? Good for you," without looking up from his menu. Vanessa rolled her eyes. "Marketing? That's just ads, right? Boring." No questions, no toasts. I paid the bill, drove home alone, crying in the car. The pattern was clear. My achievements were invisible because they didn't fit their mold. Vanessa's were flashy, social, parties, relationships, things Dad could brag about at work. Mine were quiet battles, internal wins that didn't come with trophies or audiences. I'd learned to celebrate alone, building a shell around my heart, but it hurt every time. Like when I bought my first apartment at 27, using savings from overtime and smart investments. I showed Dad the keys over coffee, grinning. "My own place," he sipped his drink. "Nice. Vanessa's thinking of moving too. Maybe you can help her find something." Always redirecting to her. Now, in the venue's hallway, sunlight streaming through windows, casting patterns on the floor, I felt that old ache resurface. Vanessa's jealousy wasn't new, it stemmed from her need to outshine me, to keep Dad's attention locked on her. She'd sabotage subtly, forgetting to tell Dad about my events, or exaggerating her own crises to overlap with mine. Like the time I won a marketing award, a regional honor that got my name in the paper. I clipped the article, left it on the fridge. Vanessa accidentally spilled coffee on it the next day. "Oops," she said, not sounding sorry at all. Dad laughed it off. "Sisters, right?" I reached the end of the hall, the garden doors ahead, voices murmuring outside. My chest tightened with the weight of it all. How many times had I swallowed the pain, told myself it didn't matter? But it did. It built this wall between us, making today's betrayal feel inevitable. Vanessa had always manipulated, and Dad had always fallen for it. I straightened my shoulders, adjusting my veil one last time. No more invisibility. Today I'd step into the light, with or without them. But as I gripped the door handle, cold metal against my palm, another flash. Christmas last year, when I hosted dinner, cooking all day for a perfect meal. Vanessa arrived with a store-bought pie, claiming she'd baked it, and Dad praised her endlessly. My turkey, my sides, barely a mention. I cleared plates in silence, hands shaking with frustration. That night, alone in my kitchen, I vowed to stop trying so hard. Yet here I was on my wedding day, still hoping for change. The door creaked open, fresh air hitting my face. Guests turned, smiling, but my eyes sought Jack in the crowd. He was there, near the front, his kind face breaking into a grin as he saw me. In that moment, the flashbacks faded slightly, replaced by a spark of hope. Maybe family wasn't about blood? Maybe it was about who saw you, truly. I took a deep breath, stepping forward, ready to ask him the question that would change everything. As I stepped through the garden doors, the warm sun kissing my skin, and the scent of blooming roses filling the air, that spark of hope flickered brighter, pulling me back to the moment 3 years ago when I'd hit rock bottom and decided to channel all that buried pain into something unstoppable. A secret marketing project that would redefine my career and prove my worth to myself, even if my family never noticed. Jack waved from his seat, his silver hair catching the light. But before I approached him, my mind rewound to that rainy Tuesday evening in my tiny apartment, the one I'd scrimped to afford after college. I'd just come home from another family dinner where Vanessa had stolen the show with her tales of a new job in sales, something flashy with commissions and client lunches, while my steady climb in marketing went unmentioned. Dad had clapped her on the back, eyes shining, and I'd sat there, fork pushing pasta around my plate, feeling like a ghost. I collapsed onto my couch that night, rain pattering against the window like accusatory fingers, my laptop balanced on my knees. Tears welled up, hot and unbidden, as I scrolled through old photos, graduations, promotions, all celebrated alone with a glass of cheap wine. "Enough," I whispered to the empty room, my voice cracking. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand, the sleeve of my sweater dampening. That's when the aha hit me like a lightning bolt. Why beg for their validation? I'd build something so big, so undeniable that I'd never need it again. My job at the agency was solid, but I craved more. Autonomy, impact. I opened a new document, fingers flying over the keys, outlining a freelance project, a comprehensive marketing strategy for a startup I'd connected with online, a eco-friendly clothing brand struggling to gain traction. The struggle started immediately. Nights blurred into mornings as I juggled my day job with this secret endeavor. I'd brew coffee at midnight, the machine gurgling like a companion, and hunch over my desk, eyes straining at spreadsheets and design mocks. My hands would cramp from typing, knuckles white as I refined pitches, researched competitors, and A/B tested ad copy. Doubt crept in during those wee hours. What if it fails? What if I'm not as good as I think? I'd stand, pace the creaky floorboards, staring out at the city lights, my reflection in the window looking weary but determined. One night, after a brutal feedback session from the startup's founder, "This isn't cutting it, Everly," I slammed my laptop shut, forehead dropping to the cool wood of the desk. Sobs shook me, the kind that leave you gasping, but I didn't quit. Instead, I grabbed a notebook, jotting ideas frantically, pen scratching paper until my wrist ached. Microsteps built momentum. I remember redesigning their logo at 3 a.m., mouse clicking precisely as I adjusted curves and colors, the screen's glow illuminating my focused frown. Emails pinged back and forth, suppliers for sustainable fabrics, influencers for collaborations, my inbox a battlefield of negotiations. I'd rub my temples during calls, voice steady despite the exhaustion, convincing a hesitant partner with data I'd crunched myself. "Look at these metrics. Engagement up 40% in tests." The intense push came during a 2-week sprint to launch their campaign. I barely slept, surviving on takeout containers piling up by the sink, my phone buzzing with alerts. Fingers flew across the keyboard, uploading assets to social platforms, scheduling posts with timed precision. Anxiety knotted my stomach. Would it work? But I pushed through, each click a defiance against the invisibility I'd endured. Then, the triumph. Launch day, I watched the analytics dashboard like a hawk, cursor hovering over refresh. Numbers ticked up slowly at first. Likes, shares, then sales notifications flooding in. By evening, their site crashed from traffic overload. The founder called, voice ecstatic, "Everly, you're a genius, we've tripled projections." I leaned back in my chair, a grin splitting my face, fists pumping the air silently. I'd done it, turned pain into power, built a success story worth thousands in freelance fees and a portfolio piece that landed me my executive role. But I kept it secret from family. No gloating texts to Vanessa, no casual mention to Dad. It was mine, a hidden fortress proving I didn't need their applause. Back in the garden, that memory fueled me as I weaved through guests, their whispers and smiles, a distant hum. My heels sank slightly into the grass, each step a reminder of how far I'd come. Jack stood as I neared, his tie a cheerful blue, matching the sky. "Everly, you look stunning," he said, pulling me into a gentle hug, his cologne familiar and comforting. I clung a second longer, drawing strength from his solid presence. "Uncle Jack," I started, voice steady despite the lump in my throat, "I need to ask you something important." He tilted his head, eyes kind but curious, hand resting on my arm. "Anything, kiddo." I glanced around, ensuring no one overheard, especially not any lingering family members who'd shown up despite Dad's absence. My fingers twisted the bouquet ribbon, a nervous habit. "Dad's not coming. Vanessa pulled some stunt, a fake party to keep him away." Jack's brow furrowed, jaw tightening subtly, a flash of anger in his eyes. "That girl? I'm sorry, Everly." I nodded, swallowing hard. "Will you walk me down the aisle? It would mean everything." His face softened, a smile breaking through as he squeezed my arm. "I'd be honored." Relief washed over me, shoulders relaxing for the first time that morning. We stood there, the garden alive around us, birds chirping, leaves rustling, as I felt the weight of my secret success bolster this choice. I'd built my strength in silence, and now choosing Jack was an extension of that, selecting family who saw me. But as we turned toward the altar, Tom's figure waiting at the end, with looking handsome in his suit, a new resolve settled. The reception loomed, where Vanessa's deceit would surface. I'd confront it head-on, my hidden triumphs giving me the backbone to stand tall. Jack linked his arm with mine, steady and sure. "Ready?" he asked. I nodded, chin up more than ever. The music swelled, cueing our entrance. Guests rose, faces turning, but my focus was forward. Each step down the aisle, arm in arm with Jack, felt like shedding the old hurts. Vanessa thought she'd broken me, but she'd only made me stronger. The ceremony began, vows exchanged with Tom, his hands warm in mine, eyes full of love. Rings slipped on fingers, a kiss sealing our union. But inside the storm brewed. The truth about Vanessa's lie waited, and when it hit, I'd be unbreakable. The applause erupted around us as Tom and I pulled back from our kiss, his hand lingering on my cheek, thumb brushing away a stray tear of joy that had escaped despite everything. Guests cheered, petals scattered underfoot as we turned to face them. My arm looped through his, a united front. Jack stood at the front row, clapping heartily, his eyes misty with pride that warmed me more than the sun filtering through the garden arches. But as we walked back down the aisle, smiles plastered for the cameras flashing like stars, my mind slipped away from the triumph of the moment. Drifting back to the night before, the eve of this whirlwind day, when I'd lain awake in my hotel room, bracing for the family drama I knew was coming, all while tying up loose ends on a life-changing work deal that reminded me of my own power. The hotel room had been quiet, too quiet, the kind that amplifies every thought. I'd checked in early evening after a final rehearsal dinner where tensions simmered just below the surface. Vanessa had been there, of course, her laugh too loud, her comments laced with that familiar edge. "Can't wait for tomorrow, sis. Hope Dad makes it in time," she'd said, sipping her wine, eyes glinting with something I couldn't quite place. I'd nodded politely, my fork scraping the plate as I pushed food around, appetite gone. After, alone in the room, I kicked off my shoes, toes sinking into the plush carpet, and collapsed onto the bed, the comforter puffing around me. My phone buzzed incessantly, not with well wishes but with work emails. As a marketing executive, I'd been on the cusp of sealing a massive deal with a national brand, one that could catapult my career and the freelance side I'd built in secret. I reached for my laptop on the nightstand, the wood cool under my fingers, and flipped it open, the screen lighting my face in the dim room. The cursor blinked in the email draft, words I'd revised a dozen times, final proposal tweaks, budget adjustments, a pitch that highlighted the campaign's projected ROI. My fingers hovered over the keys, hesitating. Why now? Why couldn't work wait? But it was my anchor, the thing Vanessa and Dad couldn't touch. I typed slowly at first, deleting and rephrasing, my back propped against pillows that smelled faintly of lavender. The clock ticked past 10 p.m., then 11, as I attached files. Spreadsheets I'd crunched numbers on for weeks, visuals I'd designed with precise color palettes. Each click felt like a small victory, a reminder that I'd built this without their approval. But the dread crept in between keystrokes. I paused, staring at the ceiling fan whirring lazily, blades cutting shadows across the walls. What if Dad bailed? Vanessa had been hinting at some family obligation all week, her texts vague but pointed. Dad's so stressed, maybe he needs a break. I knew her game, jealous since Tom proposed. She'd nitpicked every detail from the dress to the venue. Too extravagant, she'd said, lips pursed. I rolled over, grabbing my phone, thumb scrolling through old messages from Dad. Proud of you, kid, one read, from months ago. Woody show? I typed a quick reminder. See you tomorrow? I'll at 2. No reply. My chest tightened, breath shallow as I set the phone down face up, waiting for the glow of a response that didn't come. To distract, I stood, pacing the room in my robe, feet padding softly. I stopped at the mirror, adjusting the hem, my reflection showing dark circles under eyes I'd have to conceal tomorrow. The deal. Focus on the deal. Back at the laptop, I refined the closing line. This partnership will redefine your brand's reach. Send. The whoosh sound echoed in the silence, a rush of adrenaline following. The client responded almost immediately. Looks solid. Let's finalize post-honeymoon. It was happening. A 6-figure contract, validation from strangers who'd seen my worth. I closed the laptop with a soft click, hands trembling slightly from the high, but the family shadow loomed. Sitting on the edge of the bed, knees drawn up, I hugged them close, chin resting atop. Anticipating my moment with Jack kept me grounded. Tom's uncle had been a constant these past months, calling to check in, sharing stories over coffee about his own marriage, the ups and downs. Family's what you make it, he'd said once, hand clapping my shoulder. If Dad flaked, I'd ask Jack. The idea settled like a plan B, fingers unclenching as I visualized it, his arms steady, his smile reassuring. But it hurt, planning around abandonment. A tear slipped down my cheek, I wiped it away roughly, nail-scraping skin. No crying now. I lay back, pulling covers up, but sleep evaded, mind racing through scenarios. Vanessa smirking if Dad didn't show, guests whispering, me holding it together. By midnight, I got up again, brewing tea from the room's kettle, steam rising as water boiled, the hiss a temporary soothe. Cup in hand, warmth seeping through ceramic, I sipped slowly, staring out the window at city lights twinkling below. This deal, this wedding, it was mine. Vanessa's jealousy couldn't steal it. I set the cup down, saucer clinking, and climbed back into bed, forcing deep breaths, in through nose, out through mouth, until exhaustion claimed me. Back in the present, as the photographer directed us, bride and groom, look here. Tom squeezed my hand, pulling me from the reverie. You okay? He whispered, breath tickling my ear. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside the eve's dread mingled with today's reality. Dad hadn't come. Vanessa's fake party had worked, but the ceremony was done. Jack had been there, and my deal waited on the horizon. Now the reception approached, where family would gather, and the truth would surface. I straightened, veil fluttering in the breeze, ready to face it. Guests milled about, laughter rising, but my steps toward the reception hall carried the weight of last night's preparations, a mix of fear and fortitude. As we entered the hall, tables set with gleaming china, centerpieces blooming, I spotted Vanessa across the room, chatting animatedly, her dress a sharp red that stood out. Our eyes met briefly. She raised a glass mockingly. My jaw clenched, teeth grinding subtly. The storm was here, but so was my resolve, forged in that quiet hotel room. Vanessa's mocking toast hung in the air like a challenge as Tom and I made our way to the head table, his hand firm on the small of my back, guiding me through the clusters of guests who parted with congratulatory nods and hugs. The reception hall sparkled under chandeliers, tables draped in white linens, the clink of glasses and murmur of conversations creating a lively hum, but my focus narrowed on her. Standing near the bar, wineglass in hand, her red dress clinging like a warning flag. I forced my feet forward, heels clicking on the polished floor, each step echoing the resolve I'd built last night. But as we approached the family section, the initial barrage of condescending questions and backhanded compliments began, hitting like subtle jabs I hadn't fully braced for. Aunt Clara was first, rising from her chair with a perfumed hug, her arms loose around me. Everly darling, you look, well, presentable. That dress hides the stress lines nicely. She pulled back, eyes scanning me critically, lips pursed in that familiar way. I smiled tightly, teeth gritted behind closed lips as Tom shook her hand. Thanks, Aunt Clara. Glad you could make it. But inside the words stung. Stress lines? From planning this while climbing the corporate ladder, unseen by them. She waved a hand dismissively. Oh, we wouldn't miss it. Though I hear your father's tied up with Vanessa's little soiree, such a thoughtful girl throwing him a party. I nodded, swallowing the retort bubbling up, my fingers twisting the napkin I'd grabbed from the table. Next came Cousin Mark, clapping Tom on the back too hard, his laugh booming. Congrats, man. Snagged yourself a career woman. Everly, still hustling in that ad job? Must be tough, all those deadlines. He leaned in, breath smelling of whiskey. Vanessa says you're always buried in work, no time for family fun. My cheeks heated, a flush creeping up as I forced a chuckle. It's marketing executive now, Mark, and yeah, busy but worth it. He shrugged, eyes glazing over. Right, Vanessa's in sales, real people skills there. She's killing it. The hits kept coming as we circled the table. Uncle Ted pulled out a chair for me, but not before commenting. Sit, Everly, you must be exhausted organizing all this. Vanessa offered to help, I bet, but you're so independent. His tone dripped with implication, that my independence was a flaw. I sat, chair scraping wood, hands folding in my lap to hide the clench. Actually, she didn't offer, I said evenly, but he was already turning to Tom, ignoring me. Across the table Vanessa watched, a smirk playing on her lips as she sipped her drink, elbow propped casually. More relatives chimed in, their words weaving a net of dismissal. Everly, honey, marriage will settle you down, less office, more home, said Grandma Rose, patting my hand, her rings cold against my skin. I pulled back slightly, pulse quickening. I love my job, Gran. She tutted, shaking her head. Vanessa knows balance. Parties, friends, you should learn from her. The comparison burned, a direct echo of years past, my achievements overshadowed. Tom squeezed my knee under the table, his touch grounding. But the barrage continued. Vanessa sauntered over then, hips swaying, glass refilled. She leaned against the table, nails tapping the edge. Sis, what a day. Too bad Dad couldn't make the walk, his party's gonna be epic. I planned games, cake, the works. Her eyes locked on mine, challenging. I straightened, voice low. It's fake, Vanessa, you made it up to keep him away. She laughed, a sharp sound that drew eyes. Jealous much? It's real. Invites sent weeks ago. You're just mad because your big day isn't enough to pull him from family time. Lies, smooth as silk, but I saw the flicker in her gaze, the avoidance. Guests nearby shifted uncomfortably, forks pausing mid-bite. Cousin Lisa piped up. Vanessa's right. Family first. Everly, you work too much. No wonder Dad chose her event. The agreement rippled, nods and murmurs. My throat tightened, breath shallow as I gripped the tablecloth, fabric bunching in my fist. Backhanded compliments flowed. You're so driven, Everly, almost like a man. Pretty wedding, considering the rush. Each one landed harder, chipping at the armor I'd built. I glanced at Jack, seated nearby, his jaw set, eyes narrowing at Vanessa. He caught my look, nodded subtly, support silent but strong. It helped, but the scorn piled on. Everly, still no kids planned. Vanessa talks about settling down soon, Aunt Clara added, eyebrow raised. I bit my lip, taste of blood faint. We're focused on careers first. Snickers followed. Vanessa grinned wider. See? Always the workaholic. Dad needs a break from that vibe. The room spun slightly, champagne I'd sipped churning in my stomach. I stood abruptly, chair pushing back with a screech, excusing myself to the restroom. In the mirror there, water running cold over my wrists, I stared at my reflection, eyes bright with unshed tears, makeup holding but spirit frayed. This was worse than expected. The dismissal not just from Vanessa but the whole family, echoing the invisibility I'd fought. But remembering my secret successes, the deal sealed last night, I splashed water on my face, droplets beating on skin. No breaking now. Returning, Vanessa was holding court, regaling with stories of her party prep. Dad's going to love the surprise guests, she exclaimed, hands gesturing animatedly. I sat, forcing calm, but inside, anger simmered. Tom leaned in, whispering, "We've got this." His words steadied me as the toast began, glasses raised. But Vanessa's turn came, microphone in hand. To Everly, may marriage teach her to prioritize family over spreadsheets. Laughter erupted, but mine was hollow. The evening wore on, dances starting, but the condescension lingered in every interaction. Everly, you okay? You seem tense, Mark asked later, hand on my shoulder too long. I shrugged it off. Fine, just enjoying. But I wasn't. The hits had landed deeper, stirring old wounds. Yet, as I watched Vanessa bask in attention, a plan formed. The truth would out, and I'd expose her. By dessert, plates clinking, I'd endured enough. Jack pulled me aside during a slow song. "Hang in there, kiddo, truth has a way." I nodded, hugging him briefly, his shirt soft against my cheek. The reception continued, but my resolve hardened. The confrontation brewed, and I'd be ready. As the music faded from the slow song and Jack released me with a reassuring pat on the back, his hand warm and steady, I returned to the head table where Tom waited, his eyes searching mine with quiet concern. But before I could sit, my phone vibrated in my clutch purse on the chair, a sharp buzz that cut through the reception's chatter like a knife. I fished it out, screen lighting up with Dad's name, my heart leaping then sinking as I swiped to answer, pressing the device to my ear while stepping away from the table toward a quieter corner of the hall, the din of laughter and clinking glasses muffling slightly behind me. "Dad," I said, voice barely above a whisper, fingers gripping the phone so tight my knuckles whitened. "Everly, honey?" His voice came through, tinny and distant, background noise of what sounded like music and voices filtering in. "I'm at Vanessa's party. It's something, but I wanted to call and say congrats. Sorry I couldn't make the walk." The words hit like a punch, confirmation of what I'd feared all day, my free hand pressing against the wall for support, cool plaster grounding me as my knees weakened. "You're really there?" I asked, throat dry, swallowing hard. He chuckled lightly, oblivious. "Yeah, she surprised me. Balloons, friends from work, even a cake. Couldn't say no." I closed my eyes, leaning my forehead against the wall, the texture rough on my skin. Fake, all fake, but he didn't know. Tears pricked, hot and insistent, but I blinked them back, mascara threatening to run. "Dad, it's my wedding, you promised." Silence stretched, then a sigh. "I know, Ev. But Vanessa said you'd understand. Family stuff. I'll swing by later if I can." Later, the reception was now, the dances, the toasts. My breath hitched, a small sound escaping. "It's not real, Dad, she made it up to keep you away." He paused, confusion evident. "What? No, I'm here now. People are toasting me." Manipulation at its finest. Vanessa must have scrambled to make it semi-real once he bought the lie. I straightened, wiping under my eyes carefully, smudging eyeliner on my fingertip. Before I could respond, Vanessa's voice cut in from behind, sharp and gleeful. "Is that Dad? Tell him the party's a hit." I turned, phone still pressed, to see her approaching, hips swaying, a fresh glass of champagne in hand, bubbles fizzing mockingly. Her lips curved in a triumphant smile, eyes locked on mine with that predatory glint. I lowered the phone slightly. "He's on the line, why don't you explain?" She laughed, a trill that drew nearby guests' attention, heads turning. "Explain what? That I threw him a bash he deserves?" "While you're here playing princess." My jaw clenched, teeth grinding, as I put the phone on speaker, holding it out. "Dad, Vanessa's here. She can tell you about the surprise." His voice crackled. "Van? This is great, kiddo. Thanks for pulling it together." She leaned in, breath warm on my hand. "No problem, Daddy. Everly's just jealous her day isn't as fun." The gloat in her tone deepened the stab, my chest aching like a bruise. "Jealous? Of her lies?" I clicked off speaker, bringing the phone back. "Dad, come to the reception, please." But he was distracted, voices calling him. "Gotta go. Ev, love you." Click. Gone. The phone slipped from my ear, screen going dark, reflecting my stunned face. Vanessa stepped closer, voice low for only me. "See? He chose me, always does." Her words twisted the knife, betrayal flooding fresh, not just his absence but her reveling in it. My hands shook, purse strap digging into my palm as I clutched it. "Why, Vanessa? What did I ever do?" She shrugged, sipping her drink, liquid sloshing. "You exist. Always the perfect one with your job and Tom. Dad needed a reminder who really cares." "Cares? By lying?" I turned away, but she followed. Heels clicking. "Admit it, Ev. Without me, he'd be bored at your stuffy wedding." Guests nearby shifted uncomfortably, whispers starting. "What's going on? Family drama?" But Vanessa thrived on it, raising her voice. "Come on, sis, dance it off. Dad's happy. That's what matters." Her gloating peaked, arm gesturing grandly, spilling a drop of champagne on the floor. I stared at the spot, spreading on wood, mirroring my spreading hurt. Deepening betrayal washed over me, not just today's sting but years of it, culminating here. My father, absent on my biggest day, duped by her, and her rubbing it in like salt. Tom appeared then, hand on my elbow, gentle but firm. "Ev?" I leaned into him, his cologne steadying. "He's not coming," I whispered, voice cracking. Vanessa snorted. "Told you, my party's better." The gloat fueled my anger, fists balling at sides, but I wouldn't snap, not yet. Instead, I straightened, meeting her eyes. Enjoy it while it lasts. She faltered slightly, brow furrowing, but recovered with a smirk. Oh, I will. The reception continued around us, cake cutting announced, but the joy dimmed. I moved through motions, knife in hand with Tom slicing into frosting but taste ashen. Vanessa hovered, toasting loudly. To absent friends, drawing laughs but mine forced. The betrayal gnawed, a hollow in my gut. How could Dad believe her? How could she hate me this much? Later, during dances, she pulled a cousin onto the floor, twirling dramatically, eyes flicking to me triumphantly. I sat, fingers tracing tablecloth patterns, mind reeling. Jack joined me, chair pulling up. That call? I nodded, recounting briefly, voice low. His face hardened. She's poison, but you've got us. True, but the sting lingered, deepening with each gloat from her. As the night wore, her jabs continued, whispered to relatives, Everly sulking again. Each one deepened the wound, betrayal a throbbing ache. But in it, resolve grew. The truth would come out, and her gloating would crumble. For now, I endured, hugging Tom closer during our dance, his arms a shield. The absence confirmed, the gloating relentless, but my spirit, though bruised, held. As the dance floor cleared after Vanessa's theatrical twirl, the DJ announcing a break for more toasts, I slipped away from Tom's side with a quick squeeze of his hand, my fingers lingering on his for a moment of reassurance, before I weaved through the crowd toward where Uncle Jack sat nursing a glass of scotch at a corner table, his posture relaxed but eyes sharp, watching the room like a guardian. The betrayal from Dad's call still throbbed in my chest, a dull ache that made each breath feel heavy. But seeing Jack there, tie loosened slightly, a half smile on his face as he chatted with Tom's aunt, ignited a flicker of hope. I needed to ask him now, before the night unraveled further, to step in and fill the void left by my father's absence, not just for the walk that had already happened, but to affirm the bond growing between us. I approached the table, my dress swishing softly against my legs, the fabric a gentle reminder of the day's intended joy. Jack looked up as I neared, his eyes crinkling at the corners, setting down his glass with a soft clink on the linen. Everly, come sit, you holding up? His voice was warm, gravelly from years of storytelling, and I pulled out the chair beside him, the wood scraping lightly on the floor as I sank into it, my hands folding in my lap to hide their slight tremble. Not really, I admitted, voice low to avoid prying ears from nearby tables where relatives laughed over dessert plates. Dad called. He's at Vanessa's party. He's not coming. Jack's face hardened, jaw tightening visibly, a muscle twitching as he glanced across the room to where Vanessa held court, her laughter ringing out. He reached over, placing his hand over mine, his palm rough from years of manual work in his garage, but comforting in its solidity. I'm sorry, kiddo, that's not right. I nodded, throat tight, blinking back the sting in my eyes. It hurts more than I thought. But, earlier, you walked me down the aisle. That meant everything. I didn't get to thank you properly. He squeezed my hand, then released it to take a sip of his scotch, the ice cubes rattling softly. No thanks needed. When you asked this morning, there was no question. You're family now. Hell, you were before the ring. His words wrapped around me like a hug, easing the knot in my stomach a fraction. I remembered the ceremony vividly now, the way his arm had felt linked with mine, steady and sure as we stepped down the aisle, grass soft under our feet, guests' faces blurring into smiles. He'd whispered jokes to calm my nerves. Don't trip, or I'll have to carry you, his breath tickling my ear, making me chuckle despite the chaos. But sitting here, the reception lights dimming slightly for ambiance, I needed more than a memory. I needed to express how his support revealed what true family loyalty looked like, especially with Vanessa's gloating still echoing in my ears. Jack, you've been there for me in ways my own dad hasn't. Like when Tom and I were house hunting, and you came over to inspect the foundation, spending hours in the crawl space. He chuckled, leaning back, chair creaking. Someone had to make sure you didn't buy a money pit. Your dad, well, he's got his blind spots. Blind spots, polite for favoring Vanessa. I twisted my wedding ring, the metal cool and new on my finger. It's more than that. You've listened to my work stories, celebrated my promotions. Remember the bottle of champagne you sent after my big campaign launch? His eyes softened, nodding slowly. You earned it. Marketing whiz like you? Tom's lucky. The praise hit different, genuine without strings. Unlike Dad's offhand comments, Jax felt earned, seen. I leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice earnest. That's why asking you to walk me meant so much. It wasn't just filling in, it was choosing you as family. He paused, glass halfway to his lips, then set it down, turning fully toward me. Everly, blood doesn't make family. Showing up does, and I'll always show up for you. Tears welled then, one slipping down my cheek. I dabbed it with a napkin, paper crinkling. Across the room, Vanessa caught my eye, raising her glass in another mock toast, but I looked away, focusing on Jack. Tell me more about your wedding, I said, needing the distraction, the connection. He grinned, fingers drumming the table lightly. That was a circus. Rain poured, tent collapsed. But my brother Tom's dad held it up with sheer will while we said vows, family steps up. His story flowed, hands gesturing, painting pictures of mud-splattered suits and laughter through the storm. I listened, head tilted, the ache easing as his words reinforced the lesson. Loyalty isn't given, it's proven. As he spoke, Tom joined us, pulling a chair close, his knee bumping mine under the table. Uncle Jack spinning yarns? Jack winked. Just reminding your wife what real support looks like. Tom laughed, arm around my shoulders, pulling me in. The three of us sat there, a small island in the sea of guests, as Jack continued, voice rising and falling. And when my wife got sick years back, it was the chosen ones who mattered. Friends, neighbors, not distant kin. His eyes met mine, meaningful. You're chosen, Everly. The weight lifted slightly, breaths coming easier. Vanessa's betrayal still stung, but Jack's unwavering presence countered it, a balm on the wound. I stood eventually, hugging him tightly, his arms enveloping me, patting my back like a father would. Thank you, I whispered. He nodded against my shoulder. Anytime. Returning to the dance floor with Tom, his hand in mine, fingers interlaced, I felt stronger. Jack's support wasn't just for the aisle, it was ongoing, revealing that true family chooses you, every day. As the music swelled again, Vanessa's glare from afar lost its power. The night wasn't over. The confrontation loomed, but with Jack in my corner, I was ready. The music picked up tempo as Tom spun me gently on the dance floor, his hands secure on my waist, our steps sinking effortlessly despite the undercurrent of tension still humming through me. But with Jack's words echoing in my mind like a shield, I felt a surge of clarity. The moment had come to unravel Vanessa's web of lies right here at the reception, before the night ended and her deceit solidified into family lore. As the song wound down, applause rippling through the crowd, the DJ's voice boomed over the speakers. Time for the family toasts! Let's hear from the bride's sister, Vanessa. My stomach twisted, a knot forming as she sauntered to the microphone stand at the center of the room, her red dress catching the lights, glass in hand, that smug smile plastered on like she'd already won. I froze mid-step, Tom's arm tightening around me protectively, his whisper hot against my ear. You don't have to let her do this. But I shook my head slightly, chin lifting, fingers interlacing with his as we moved off the floor toward the edge, close enough to intervene. Vanessa tapped the mic, a sharp feedback squeal cutting the air, drawing winces from guests. Testing, testing, she purred, then launched in, voice amplified and dripping with false sweetness. To my big sister Everly, always the overachiever. Congrats on snagging Tom, and Dad, sorry you couldn't be here, but your party's a blast. She raised her glass higher, eyes scanning the room for approval, relatives nodding along, some chuckling. That's when the lie cracked open for me, like a dam bursting. I couldn't stand by anymore, my feet carried me forward before my brain caught up, heels clicking purposefully on the dance floor, guests parting with murmured confusion. Tom's hand slipped from mine, but he followed close, a silent backup. Vanessa's eyes widened as I approached, her grip on the mic tightening, knuckles paling. What are you? She started, but I reached her side, gently but firmly taking the microphone from her hand, our fingers brushing in a cold exchange. The room hushed, chairs scraping as people leaned in, forks set down with soft clinks. Actually, I said, voice steady though my heart pounded like a drum, the mic cool in my palm, let's clear something up. I turned to the crowd, scanning faces. Aunt Clara's furrowed brow, Cousin Mark's raised eyebrow, Jack's encouraging nod from his table. Vanessa's party for Dad? It's fake. She invented it to keep him from walking me down the aisle today. Gasps rippled, low and sharp, Vanessa's face flushing red, her hand snatching at the air for the mic. "That's not true. Ev, you're ruining." But I held it away, arm extended, continuing. She told him it was a surprise bash, but there were no plans until he bought the lie. Then she scrambled to make it look real. Evidence. I needed to back it up. My free hand dug into my clutch, pulling out my phone, screen unlocking with a swipe of my thumb. Here, text from last week. Vanessa saying, "Dad's stressed, maybe skip the wedding for a chill night." No mention of a party. I held the phone up, screen facing out, guests craning necks. Vanessa lunged slightly, but Tom stepped between us, his presence a barrier. "And Dad's call earlier. He thought it was legit, but ask him yourselves." Murmurs grew, phones emerging from pockets, fingers dialing. Aunt Clara stood, chair pushing back with a screech. "Vanessa, is this true?" Vanessa's eyes darted, lips pressing into a thin line, hands clenching at her sides. I just wanted Dad happy. Everly's always so busy, he needed attention." But her voice wavered, the gloat gone, replaced by defensiveness. I pressed on, voice rising slightly. "Attention? By lying? This isn't new. Remember my promotion dinner? You hijacked it with your drama. Or graduation. You scheduled your recital the same day." The room stirred, relatives exchanging glances, pieces clicking. Jack rose then, walking over slowly, his steps measured, hand extended for the mic. I passed it, our eyes meeting in solidarity. "I've seen enough," he boomed, voice carrying authority. "Everly's right. Family doesn't sabotage like this." He handed me back the mic, but not before adding, "And for the record, walking her down the aisle was the highlight of my year." Smiles broke out, applause sporadic but growing. Vanessa's facade crumbled, tears welling, crocodile ones I suspected, as she backed away, bumping into a table, glassware rattling. "You don't understand," she hissed at me, close now, breath quick. "You're always the favorite in your little world, I had to." "No," I cut in, mic lowered but voice firm. "You chose jealousy over sisterhood." The confrontation peaked, her face inches from mine, eyes blazing. "Fine, expose me, but Dad will side with me." Doubt flickered in her gaze though. Phones buzzed around us, text to Dad, calls connecting. Uncle Ted's voice rose. He says, "Yeah, Vanessa admitted it was last minute." Confirmation spread like wildfire, whispers turning to outright chatter. "She lied? Poor Everly." Vanessa's shoulders slumped, hand covering her mouth, a sob escaping. But satisfaction bloomed in me, not revenge but truth. I'd revealed the manipulative lies, the long-standing deceit, shocking the family into seeing her for who she was. Dad's voice suddenly echoed from someone's speakerphone, Aunt Clara's. "Vanessa, what the hell?" The room quieted, all eyes on the phone. "Dad, she stammered, approaching, hand outstretched. "I just wanted you there." But his tone hardened. "You lied to skip your sister's wedding? I'm leaving now." Click. The line went dead, leaving silence. Vanessa turned to me, defeated, tears streaking mascara. "Happy now?" I shook my head, no joy in it. "No, but it's out." Guests shifted, some comforting her, others approaching me with hugs, apologies murmured. "We didn't know." The shock lingered, air thick with it. As the DJ resumed music softly, Tom pulled me close, lips brushing my forehead. "You did it." I nodded, exhaling deeply, the weight lifting, the deceit exposed, the confrontation raw but necessary. Family reeled, but truth had a way of healing. Jack clapped my shoulder. "Proud of you." The night shifted, deceit shattered, paving way for what came next. The hush that followed Dad's disconnected call lingered in the reception hall like a heavy fog, guests exchanging uneasy glances and murmurs as Vanessa slunk away to a corner table, her shoulders hunched, mascara-streaked face buried in her hands. But the air felt lighter for me, the truth finally breathing free. And as the DJ tentatively restarted the music with a soft ballad, Tom guided me back to our seats, his thumb rubbing soothing circles on my palm. Yet, even with the deceit exposed, the chill from my biological family's reactions, averted eyes, stiff nods, contrasted sharply with the warmth radiating from Jack and Tom's relatives, who gathered around us like a protective circle, their genuine concern pulling me into a heartfelt moment that highlighted the stark difference between blood ties and chosen bonds. Jack was the first to close in, his chair scraping back as he stood, weaving through a few lingering guests with purposeful strides, his hand extended to pull me into a one-armed hug, his other clapping Tom on the shoulder. "You handled that like a champ, Everly," he said, voice low and gruff, breath smelling faintly of scotch as he pulled back to look me in the eyes, his own crinkled with pride. I managed a small smile, my lips trembling slightly, fingers fiddling with the edge of my napkin on the table. Thanks to you being there. He shook his head, waving off the credit, but his presence felt like an anchor, solid and unwavering. Tom's Aunt Marie joined next, her floral dress swishing as she approached, carrying 2 fresh glasses of champagne on a small tray she'd snagged from a passing waiter. Here, dear, she said, handing me one, her fingers brushing mine warmly, the glass cool and bubbling. You need this after that nonsense. I took it, the stem slippery in my grip, and sipped, the fizz tickling my nose, easing the tightness in my throat. Marie pulled up a chair, its legs thumping softly on the floor, and leaned in, her hand patting my knee gently, rings glinting under the lights. Family can be tough, but you've got us now. Jack's been singing your praises since Tom brought you home. Across the table, Tom's cousin Ben slid into a seat, his tie askew from dancing, a plate of leftover cake in hand. He forked a piece and offered it to me, the chocolate frosting smeared slightly. Eat something. Drama burns calories. His grin was easy, eyes twinkling, and I couldn't help but chuckle, the sound surprising me as I accepted the bite, the sweetness melting on my tongue. Ben leaned back, arms crossing casually. Seriously, Ev, that was badass. Vanessa's always been a piece of work. Remember last Thanksgiving when she accidentally spilled wine on your sweater? The memory surfaced. But here, shared among allies, it lost its sting, turning into a shared eye roll. Jack chuckled, pulling his chair closer, the wood creaking under his weight. Yeah, but look at you now, married to my nephew, building your empire. Tell them about that big deal you just closed. I hesitated, cheeks warming, but their expectant faces, Marie tilting her head, Ben nodding encouragingly, drew it out. It's a national campaign for an eco-brand, 6 figures, launches next month. Whistles and claps followed, Jack's hand slapping the table lightly in applause, the sound sharp but joyful. That's my girl. The praise landed differently here, not backhanded but pure, making my chest swell. Tom's mom, Linda, arrived then, her heels clicking as she hugged me from behind, arms wrapping around my shoulders, chin resting briefly on my head. I'm so proud to have you as a daughter-in-law, she whispered, voice soft, before sitting beside Marie, her hand squeezing mine. We saw how they treated you. Cold shoulders all night, but that's not us. You're family because we choose you. Her words hit deep, contrasting the biological chill. Aunt Clara across the room, whispering to Uncle Ted, their glances judgmental, no approach to apologize or comfort. The group grew, Tom's sister Ellie pulling up a chair, her baby bump prominent as she sat carefully, hand on her belly. Ev, if it's a girl, we're naming her after you. Strong and smart. Laughter bubbled, my eyes misting as I reached to touch her hand, fingers linking briefly. Really? She nodded, squeezing back. Stories flowed then, Jack recounting his own family rifts, how he'd built a new circle after his parents' fallout. Blood doesn't mean loyalty, he said, finger pointing for emphasis. Actions do. Ben shared a work anecdote, mimicking a bad boss, his hands gesturing wildly, drawing laughs that eased the remaining tension. Micro moments built the warmth. Marie refilling my glass without asking, her pour steady. Linda adjusting my veil that had slipped, pins gentle in her fingers. Ellie passing me a tissue when a tear escaped. Her smile empathetic. Contrasted with the coldness, Vanessa now alone, relatives giving her space, their hugs absent, it highlighted the divide. My biological family sat rigidly, conversations clipped, no one crossing the invisible line to us. Tom leaned in amid the chatter, lips brushing my ear. See? This is real. I nodded, head resting on his shoulder momentarily, the fabric of his suit soft. The heartfelt exchange continued, plans made for future gatherings, barbecues at Jack's, holidays with them. No drama allowed, Ben joked, fist-bumping me. The acceptance wrapped around me, a blanket against the chill. As the night wound, a group photo was suggested, us clustering together, arms linked, smiles genuine as the flash popped. Vanessa watched from afar, expressions sullen, the contrast stark. This moment with Jack's family, chosen, warm, shone against the biological coldness, reaffirming my path. Hurt lingered, but here I felt seen, valued. The reception hummed on, but in this circle, peace settled. Dad would arrive soon, regret in tow, but for now I basked in the genuine bond, the heartfelt shine of true allies. The warm circle of Tom's family began to disperse as the DJ announced the last few dances, chairs pushing back with soft scrapes and laughter trailing off into hugs goodbye. But the peace I'd found in their embrace shattered abruptly when the reception hall doors swung open with a whoosh of night air, revealing my father standing there, disheveled in his rumpled suit, tie askew, his face flushed from what must have been a hasty drive over. He scanned the room, eyes landing on me amidst the thinning crowd, and strode forward, his shoes thudding on the floor, weaving past tables littered with half-eaten cake plates and wilting flowers, the regret etched deep in the lines around his mouth as he approached. Hands outstretched, like he could erase the day's damage with a gesture. I stood slowly from my seat, the chair legs catching slightly on the carpet, my hands smoothing down my dress reflexively, heart pounding as Tom rose beside me, his presence a steady wall at my back. Dad reached us, breath heavy, and pulled me into a hug before I could react. His arms tight, cologne mixed with the faint scent of party smoke clinging to his jacket. "Everly, I'm so sorry," he murmured into my hair, voice cracking, pulling back to cup my face in his hands, thumbs brushing my cheeks, eyes searching mine with a desperation I'd rarely seen. "I didn't know, Vanessa, she tricked me. I left as soon as Clara called." The words hung there, raw and pleading, but the hurt from his absence boiled up, making my throat tight. I stepped back slightly, his hands falling away, fingers flexing empty. "You chose her party, Dad? Over my wedding?" He winced, shoulders slumping, hand running through his graying hair tugging at the roots. "It was supposed to be a quick thing, she said you'd understand." Vanessa hovered in the background now, having crept closer, her eyes red-rimmed, arms crossed defensively over her chest, but I ignored her, focusing on him, the man who'd let this pattern fester for years. We moved to a quieter spot near the windows, the glass cool against my back as I leaned there, stars twinkling outside like distant witnesses. Tom stayed close, hand on my elbow, but let me lead. Dad paced a small circle, shoes scuffing, then stopped, facing me. "I messed up, big time, let me make it right." His voice trembled, eyes glistening under the dim lights. Regret poured from him, but it mingled with excuses I'd heard before. "Vanessa needs more attention. You're so strong. Evie." I held up a hand, palm out, stopping him mid-sentence. "No more excuses, Dad, this ends now." He nodded eagerly, stepping closer, but I maintained the distance, arms folding across my chest, the lace of my dress scratching slightly. "If you want a relationship, there are rules." My voice was firm, steadier than I felt, drawing from the strength Jack had shown me earlier. Dad's brow furrowed, but he listened, hands clasping together in front of him like a supplicant. "First, no more favoritism. Vanessa's manipulations? You call them out. Every time." He glanced at her where she stood biting her lip, foot-tapping nervously. Yeah, okay, she's got issues, but—" "No buts," I interrupted, finger-pointing subtly. "Second, you show up for me. Not just big days, calls, visits, interest in my life. My job, my wins." He swallowed hard, Adam's apple bobbing, nodding slowly. "I can do that, I will." But doubt flickered in his eyes and I pressed on, voice lowering. "Third, therapy. For you, maybe us together. We've got patterns to break." He hesitated, hand rubbing his neck, skin rasping under his palm. "Therapy? I'm not sure." Vanessa interjected, then stepping forward, voice whiny. "Dad, she's being dramatic, we don't need—" "Quiet, Vanessa," he snapped, turning to her sharply, his tone surprising us both. She recoiled, mouth snapping shut, eyes widening. He turned back to me, resolve hardening. "If that's what it takes, fine." The concession felt huge, his shoulders straightening as if unburdening. But I wasn't done. "And boundaries with her, no more letting her pit us against each other. If she lies, you verify with me." Vanessa huffed, arms tightening, but Dad nodded. "Agreed." The confrontation deepened as emotions surfaced. "Why did it take this for you to see?" I asked, voice cracking now, tears welling. He sighed, sitting on a nearby chair, elbows on knees, head hanging. "I was blind. After your mom, Vanessa was the baby, needed more, you were independent." His fingers interlocked, knuckles white. "But I failed you." The admission hit, softening my stance slightly, but I held firm. "You did, but we can rebuild if you mean it." Tom spoke up then, voice calm. "We're here for that, but respect the boundaries." Dad looked at him, nodding gratefully. "Thank you for being there for her." Jack approached quietly, having watched from afar, his hand on Dad's shoulder briefly. "Good start, but actions speak." Dad stood, hugging me again, this time gentler. my arms returning the embrace tentatively, his shirt damp under my cheek. Vanessa tried again, voice small. But I shook my head. Not now. You need to own this too. She nodded, retreating, heels clicking away. The aftermath settled, Dad staying for the final dance, his hand in mine as we swayed awkwardly at first, then easier, steps sinking. I love you, kid, he whispered. I know, I replied, but added. Prove it. As guests trickled out, hugs exchanged, Dad helped clean up, stacking chairs with Tom, small talk flowing. Boundaries set, the future felt tentative but possible. Regret confronted, rules established, our relationship poised on new ground. The night ended with him walking us to the car, hand waving goodbye, promise in his eyes. Healing started, but on my term. The car door clicked shut behind us as Tom started the engine, the hum vibrating through the seats, headlights cutting through the dark parking lot as we pulled away from the venue, leaving Dad standing there under the street lamp, his figure shrinking in the rearview mirror, hand still raised in a wave that carried the weight of his promises. The drive home was quiet at first, city lights blurring past the windows, my head resting against the cool glass, dress pulled around me like a deflated dream. But as we merged onto the highway, the events of the night settled in, and I felt a quiet determination take root. I would use the strength I'd built over years of silent triumphs to rebuild my bond with Dad, starting with a raw, honest conversation over coffee the next morning. Redefining our relationship on terms that honored my worth. We arrived home just after midnight, the house welcoming with porch lights on, key turning in the lock with a familiar snick. I changed out of my dress, hanging it carefully in the closet, the zipper whispering down as I slipped into pajamas, soft cotton against skin still tingling from the day's emotions. Tom kissed my forehead, his lips lingering. Get some rest. Tomorrow's a new start. But sleep evaded me, mind replaying the confrontation, Dad's regretful eyes, his agreements to boundaries. By dawn I was up, brewing coffee in the kitchen, the machine gurgling as ground steeped, aroma filling the air. I texted Dad, "Come over, we need to talk more." His reply was quick, "On my way." He arrived at 9 a.m., knocking softly as if unsure of his welcome. I opened the door, stepping aside, the morning sun casting long shadows across the floor. He looked tired, circles under his eyes, carrying a box of donuts, my favorite, chocolate glazed, a small peace offering. "Thought you might need sugar," he said, voice tentative, handing it over, paper crinkling. I took it, setting it on the counter, gesturing to the table. "Sit. Coffee's ready." He pulled out a chair, wood scraping, sitting with a sigh, hands wrapping around the mug I poured, steam rising between us. We started slow, small talk about the drive, the weather, but I steered us deeper, stirring my coffee, spoon clinking against ceramic. "Dad, last night was a start, but we have work." He nodded, sipping, wincing at the heat. "I know. Where do we begin?" I leaned forward, elbows on the table, voice steady, with honesty. "Tell me why you've always favored Vanessa." His eyes dropped to his mug, fingers tracing the rim, a slow circle. "After your mom died, you were older, handled things. Vanessa cried more, demanded attention. It was easier to give in." The admission stung, but it was real, no sugarcoating. I nodded, absorbing it, my hand reaching across to touch his briefly, skin warm. But it hurt me, made me feel invisible. He looked up, eyes misty. "I see that now. I'm sorry, Ev, truly." Apology accepted, but not blindly. Saying sorry is one thing, showing it is another. We delved into specifics, me recounting past slights, graduations missed, achievements overlooked. He listened, head bowed, interrupting only to ask questions. "What did you feel then? How can I make amends?" His engagement surprised me. No defensiveness, just quiet absorption. Strength from my career fueled me here. The same resolve that closed deals, pitched ideas. "Like in my job," I said. "I build strategies step by step. We do the same." He perked up, interested. "Tell me about your work, really." So I did, describing the recent deal, fingers gesturing as I explained campaigns, metrics. His eyes widened. "That's impressive. I never knew the details. Because you never asked, I thought, but said, now you do, and I want you to celebrate it, like you do Vanessa's stuff." He agreed, pulling out his phone, calendar open. "Lunch next week, to toast your success." I smiled, first genuine one. "Yes, but rebuilding meant addressing Vanessa too. She can't manipulate anymore, you have to confront her." He shifted uncomfortably, chair creaking. "She's my daughter too." So am I countered, voice firm, equal. He nodded, resolve setting in. I'll talk to her, set rules. We brainstormed, therapy sessions booked, his finger-scrolling contacts for a counselor, regular check-ins, me suggesting weekly calls. And visits, he added, to your office, see your world. The idea warmed me, visualizing him there, proud. Emotions surfaced raw, tears from him recounting Mom's death, how grief blinded him. I cried too, tissue-dabbing eyes, admitting my resentment. I built walls because of it. He reached over, hand covering mine. Let's tear them down. Microactions built trust, him sharing a memory of Mom praising my independence, me forgiving a specific hurt. That promotion dinner, I should have celebrated you. You can now, I said. Tom joined midway, bringing fresh coffee, his presence supportive without intruding. Family meeting, he joked lightly but sat, contributing. Jax offered to mediate if needed. Dad chuckled. That man's a rock, grateful for him. The conversation flowed easier, plans solidifying. Family dinner next month, neutral ground, boundaries clear. By noon, donuts half eaten, crumbs on plates, we hugged goodbye, his embrace longer, sincere. I love you, Everly, we'll get this right. I believe you, I replied, meaning it. He left, car pulling away, and I stood at the door, sun warming my face, feeling lighter. Using my inner strength, forged in secret successes, I'd redefined our ties, honest foundations laid. The day continued. Me reflecting while unpacking gifts, ribbons untying. Rebuilding wasn't instant, but this talk was the cornerstone. Strength applied not just to career, but here, reclaiming family on my terms. The wedding gifts sat stacked in the living room corner, ribbons untied and paper crinkled from yesterday's unpacking, a tangible reminder of the new life Tom and I were building. But as I sipped my afternoon tea on the couch, mug warm between my palms, steam curling up like gentle thoughts, my mind wandered to a quiet reflection on the whirlwind of the past days, the betrayals, the confrontations, the tentative bridges rebuilt. And in that stillness, I realized deep in my core that my worth wasn't tied to Dad's approval or Vanessa's jealousy, but rooted firmly within myself, a self-validation that brought a profound, lasting peace I'd chased for years. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting warm patches on the floor, and I set the mug down on the coffee table with a soft clink, leaning back into the cushions, eyes closing as memories replayed like a slow film. The wedding morning's dread, Dad's text hitting like a slap, Vanessa's smirks at the reception, her lies unraveling under the mic's glare, Jack's steady arm down the aisle, his words later affirming chosen family, and Dad's visit this morning, his apologies raw, our talk peeling back layers of hurt. It all converged here, in this ordinary moment, no drama, just me. I stood, pacing to the window, fingers trailing the sill, dust motes dancing in the light. For so long I'd measured myself against their yardstick. Vanessa's spotlight steals, Dad's absent praises. My marketing wins, those secret projects poured from pain, were band-aids on deeper wounds. But exposing the deceit, setting boundaries, choosing Jack, they weren't just acts, they were declarations. I'm enough, I whispered to the empty room, voice echoing slightly off the walls. The realization settled, warm and sure, like slipping into a favorite sweater. Tom was at work, but his note on the fridge, "Proud of you always," smiled at me as I passed. I grabbed my journal from the shelf, pages rustling as I flipped to a blank one, pen cap clicking off. Writing it out solidified it. True family chooses you, but first, you choose yourself. Ink flowed, detailing the shift, from seeking validation in Dad's eyes to finding it in my mirror. My career highs, the deal I'd closed amid chaos, weren't for show, they were proof of resilience. Even rebuilding with Dad now felt optional, not essential, his regret a bonus, not the source of my peace. A walk seemed right, so I slipped on sneakers, laces tying with quick pulls, door locking behind me. The neighborhood buzzed softly, kids biking, leaves rustling in breeze. Each step reinforced the peace, heels striking pavement rhythmic. I passed the park where Tom proposed, bench inviting. I sat, hands on knees, watching ducks paddle the pond. Ripples from their movements mirrored life's disruptions. Vanessa's waves, Dad's absences, but they smoothed out, water calming. My worth was the still center, unrippled. Phone buzzed, a text from Dad, booked therapy for next week, lunch Friday? I replied yes, thumb tapping send, but no anxiety followed, boundaries held, peace remained mine. Vanessa hadn't reached out, her silence a space I didn't rush to fill. Maybe she'd reflect too, but that was her journey. Mine was here, breathing deep, chest expanding freely. Back home, I cooked dinner, knife-chopping veggies with precise thuds, aromas building. Tom arrived, key jingling, arms wrapping me from behind. "How was the day?" His chin on my shoulder, breath warm. "Peaceful," I said, turning to kiss him, lips meeting softly. Over pasta, forks twirling, I shared the reflection. "I get it now, family's important but self-worth is internal." He nodded, hands squeezing mine across the table. "You've always had it, glad you see." Evening deepened, us on the couch, TV murmuring low. I leaned into him, head on chest, heartbeat steady under my ear. The wedding's chaos faded, a chapter closed. Peace wasn't absence of conflict, it was knowing I could weather it, roots deep in self. Jack called later, voice cheerful. "How's the newlywed?" We chatted, his laugh infectious, reinforcing chosen bonds. "Thanks for everything," I said. "Anytime," he replied. Bedtime came, sheets cool as I slid in, Tom beside me, arm draping over. In the dark, thoughts quieted, peace enveloping like a blanket. I'd chosen myself, found worth within. True family, including Dad on new terms, flowed from that. Sleep came easy, dreams light. Days blurred into honeymoon planning, but that reflection lingered, a compass. Work calls resumed, my voice confident in meetings, fingers typing proposals with ease. A family dinner loomed, but no dread, boundaries armored me. Vanessa texted eventually, "Sorry, can we talk?" I replied, "When ready, no rush." In quiet moments like morning coffee, mug steaming, I'd smile inwardly. Piece of self-validation, hard won but mine forever. Life moved forward, honest, grounded. The chaos of that wedding day taught me something profound. Family isn't just who you're born to but who stands by you, and most importantly, standing by yourself. Have you ever had a moment where you realized your worth comes from within? Not from others' approval. Maybe a family betrayal that led to stronger boundaries, or choosing new bonds that feel like home? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. It could help someone else going through it. And if this resonated, share how you'd handle a similar situation. So what do you think? Did I forgive too soon, or set the right boundaries? Drop a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life tales of triumph and heart. Remember, true peace starts with validating your own journey. You're worth it. Keep choosing you.